Welcome to Tech London, a show featuring interviews with London's top creative entrepreneurs, startups, investors, design agencies, internet marketers, and freelancers that make up the Tech London online community, which mostly lives on the Slack instant messaging platform. We rotate through both hosts and guests for these interviews, so you have the chance to hear from multiple perspectives on London's tech scene.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's another Tech London podcast. I want to get right into it today because this man said the word Central and Eastern Europe, and I love that. I met my wife in Krakow, who's from Argentina, but that's another story a long time ago, before Instagram was invented. But Noel, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for, sir?
Hey, Bernie. So what am I known for? Known for being an expert in hiring from Eastern Europe, having a particular or an extensive list of London's cocktail bars, and known for connecting people and doing weird and wonderful things with connection and icebreakers and events and gatherings.
Are you a frustrated Butlins redcoat? Is that how you got into that?
I don't think so, but I did used to go to Butlins actually, so maybe there was a subliminal thing that came through. But no, I moved to London 2.5 years ago, wanted to meet more people, and then read a whole bunch of books on doing fun, good conversation things, getting below the chit chat.
We'll get to the podcast in a second. Do you know that book that's come out recently called The 2-Hour Cocktail Party?
I do indeed. I'm good friends with Nick Gray. We ran a session in Mexico City a few months ago, and he came along, so we've been hanging out. And yes, I do. It's a great book.
It is. I was a bit annoyed because there's a couple of books that I wish I'd written, but you know how I had an idea for an Uber, but then someone went and did it. So I really like that one. And there's a book called Anti-Cell by, oh my God, I've forgotten his name, which is really good too. And it's all about just connecting, getting people together, running meetups and having people being curious and asking questions rather than sticking their business cards to each other's forehead, which is, a lost art. What is, so I'm trying to find a way to say what's going on with the job market in the UK? Because there's this everyone went remote and everyone's got to go back to the office, and it seems like this mega shitstorm, and there seems to be people definitely losing in it and people definitely winning. And what do you think we should do?
It's really interesting. It is really interesting, and I think hopefully eventually people will meet in the middle a little bit. So I talk to a lot of employers and companies here in the UK that come to me for help hiring because they're struggling in the UK. And some of that is because, there is a definite skill shortage, right? For people that, I work with a lot of agency owners, for instance. I work with a lot of SaaS founders, and they're looking to hire really, really good people. But a lot of the salaries are just unaffordable right now. So things are really, really pretty hot on the salary side of things. And some of that is because our cost of living is really, really high. The problem with that is that there's lots of other people around the world in lower cost regions that are happy to work, for lower salaries. And so that starts getting a bit challenging. I think the big thing for me with the jobs market is that candidates need to be putting themselves out there. So much of it now is done through networking. There are still amazing opportunities for people here, in London and wider afield. But it's just put yourself across there. And, if you want to progress, I'm a little bit old school in some ways, believe in, just earning the opportunities a little bit and, going a bit above and beyond, which maybe isn't so popular these days, but, it worked really, really well for me, and I still see some instances of it working really well for people.
People say that a lot, that's a bit old school, but I just think, when you I know, don't do something weird, but when you show and demonstrate commitment, it's an energy people pick up on, which might sound even weirder than what you said, but.
Absolutely. It's that hunger. So I've got a friend of mine here in London, and she's just started working for another friend of mine as a front-end developer. And she is so excited by the opportunity, right? She's working her notice in her previous job. In the evenings, she's doing everything she can to be getting up to speed, doing stuff. And that is absolutely amazing. And I think it's going to serve her really, really, really well. And then similarly, have conversations with other people that just don't want to do anything above the bare minimum. And that is cool. That is fine if that's the way you want to go. The big thing for me is that opportunity normally comes out of you doing things a little bit different. So for those people that have got that energy and that hunger, I think there's an exciting time and lots of available things for you to kind of jump into and be noticed.
And then, do you remember on the World Off? I should have prepped you for this. About 5 years ago, Simon Sinek was being interviewed on some Australian show, and he said something about millennials, and then it went viral. And then it seems ever since that moment, everyone just is obsessed with millennials and the other one. And is this like a real thing, or is it just something like people like talking about on LinkedIn to look like they know what they're talking about, even if they don't know what they're talking about?
So I'm not entirely sure. I hear it a lot, though, and particularly in the US. So I have a lot of my US clients. I had one guy recently came to me and he said, I just don't know what to do. Like, they start on a Monday, they want a pay rise on Tuesday, they want a seat on the board on Wednesday, and by Thursday they've left because someone else has offered them 10 grand more. And, bit of an exaggeration, but it's certainly out there enough that, people are suffering and feeling it. But at the same time, I'm kind of with you that sometimes this breeds this feeling that it's everywhere when actually I suspect it's not. So there's just a meeting in the middle that needs to happen for me. And so, for the people that've got the energy, that want to really commit, I think remote work is an amazing thing, but also the label of remote work, some people are thinking of remote work that it means absolute flexibility. And I can be a laptop toting nomad sat on the beach, working for a couple of hours whilst getting full-time pay. And, there's this whole thing about being overemployed and people intentionally taking 2, 3, or even more full-time jobs and then kind of complaining when they get caught out or things like that. I'm not down with that, because if you want to have a good career and kind of have some interesting opportunity, then I'm not sure that's the way to go about it. So there's a whole mix of things going on, and that kind of breeds opportunity, but does breed a lot of frustration when there's just a mismatch of expectations between, kind of someone that wants to do the work and someone that wants to employ someone to do the work.
That was because must have been like 2017 that I just got into working in online, things like Upwork and stuff like that. And it really opened my eyes to how people hire you on those platforms. And I noticed that some people would do like an onboarding thing. So they'd be like, whether it was for a blog post or a bigger job or something like that, they knew how to build an online remote relationship. And that was a long time ago. And other people would say they just expected Salesforce, Trello, and how to set up an Oracle satellite system, in an hour, even though they wanted to pay like £9. And I always felt those people kind of, and there were people that I felt hired you online because they were so shit at what they did and they wanted to outsource their success to you, rather than, have you deliver some work. I confuse my things there, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the best analogy for this right now, at the danger of saying the words ChatGPT, right? The best analogy is how you go into ChatGPT. If you give it a one-line prompt, it's going to give you an output with a certain quality. If you give it 3, 4, 5, 10 paragraphs, really helping it to help you, the output is going to be so much better. And it's the same when people hire. So as you said, lots of people will jump onto Upwork, Fiverr, Indeed, Monster.com, wherever, and they'll put a plain text, 2-paragraph job post that talks about what they want and doesn't in any way talk about what the candidate might want. And as a result, they're going to get a certain kind of quality and level of interest back. So if you're just hiring someone to do something really, really straightforward, that a couple of paragraphs can do a brief, and it's like a one-off task, and they don't need to know your vision, your values, your culture, what you really, really deeply want, then that might be fine. But if you're looking for someone to join your team and be a real team member, even if they're remote, even if they're legally a contractor, then you've got to put that more effort in and do that kind of onboarding. And for me, set the expectation up front that you're looking for a team member. So I think both ways are fine, as long as you're doing the briefing for what you actually want. And that is where, I spend a lot of my time coaching and guiding employers to be like, hey, look, the people you want, you've got to actually sell the opportunity to them. So their job post should be a sales page complete with testimonials, social proof, pictures, things like that, because to attract the people they want, that's the effort you've got to do.
So building on that is, I've been in this situation, either like working on a project or in part of a startup or something in it, where there's been 3 or 4 of us, and we've all kind of, got our finger in every bit of pie of the thing, and it's all a bit messy and it works, but we know we need to get some help. And then we don't know what we know. Someone goes, oh, let's hire someone remotely, or, what's pertinent to what we're talking about here. How do you do that? How do you find out what you want when you're in the weeds yourself?
So ideally have a conversation with someone friendly that loves these kind of chats. So I'm an example of that, or you can just chat to other people, peers, other business owners, things like that. The main thing is not to get constrained by job titles. So I tell people all the time, ignore the job title, forget about that. Start off with a list of what you actually want someone to do, and just freeform, just get it all out on paper or screen. Then you can figure out, and someone like me can help you figure out, okay, which of those things can be combined into a role. We have this tendency as founders and business owners, right? Like you said, we're all wearing multiple hats. We're doing 28 different jobs. And yet when we go to hire, we're like, oh, I need to hire a marketing person, or I need to hire a developer. They can't possibly do that. That's a different job. When in actual fact, people love having variety and love being able to get involved in different things, as long as it's within their capability. So yeah, start with a list of things that you actually want to get done. You can get inspiration from other job posts that are out there, and chat to people like me, people like you, and just be like, hey, I'm thinking of hiring to get these things done. Is there a particular title or role or place, and the method of hiring that you'd recommend?
So the other thing is, I'm really bad at segues, but in March 2020, suddenly I was a remote work expert, because I've been working remotely, online, that kind of whatever you want to call it, since probably, I'd say 2008. And I would never walk around going, oh, I'm a digital nomad. But, I just worked in a co-working space with a laptop and hardly ever met the people I work with. And I just thought more people work like that. And then when COVID hit in March 2020, I was being invited. I felt really, I felt like complete imposter syndrome, because there's so many people that probably you and I know who are remote work experts. And I was being invited to webinars to talk about remote work. And I was amazed at how many people didn't know how to work remotely. And I don't want to sound like a knob saying that, but I just thought that's how we work nowadays. But what happened for you in 2020, till now? How did it must have felt like an earthquake in your industry.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing for us is that businesses that previously would never have entertained hiring remotely, they'd be like, no, absolutely not. We've got to have people in the office. They've got to have access to the network, or, we've got to be together. Suddenly we're forced to go remote. And so they had to make it work. And then as a result, at the end of it, they've been like, and during that, and it was an extended period of time, right? During that period, some of their team members moved house, and they didn't move house down the street or within the same town. They moved house maybe within the country, maybe outside of the country, and we're like, oh, well, I can work remotely. Then you come to the end of it, and they're trying to bring people back in the office, and they're like, oh, well, I live in Spain, or I live in Portugal, or I live in wherever now, right? And sometimes that's a trickier conversation. So it opened people's eyes that actually remote work and hiring people remotely wasn't for these crazy online entrepreneurs. Actually, anyone could do it. And that's been huge for us, right? So we're now tapped in and helping people hire that never would have thought about it before.
What changed in your opinion, or how you viewed the world, or however you want to interpret that, in that time? Because you must have thought one thing in January 2020, and all that happened. Was it like Pandora's box opened for your industry, or what?
A little bit, yes. I think, so what was the thing for me? I think there was a bit of a holy shit moment. I run a remote recruitment business specializing in an area of the world that has amazing people at half the cost of, UK, US, etc. Suddenly this opportunity just got, 100 times bigger than I'd probably ever dreamed it could be. But with that comes a whole bunch of complexity, because it's like, how much of my time do I want to spend advising, guiding, coaching people that have never hired offshore before, versus working with clients that already have a remote team that are very well versed in how to do it. There's a different kind of process around it. And actually, I work with all kinds of, both groups of those people. but it's different. If you're, we have a lot of remote first people have always been remote, as you said, since 2008, 2010, 2012. It's very different where they've always been remote first versus having just gone remote and now maybe trying to be hybrid. But yeah, it just opens it up to lots bit more opportunity, but at the same time, lots more competition. And that's what, people here in London are facing. There's huge competition for jobs, especially remote jobs, in a way there's not been before. But there's more opportunity as well because there's way more jobs available to them.
And I'm always been madly in love with Eastern and Central Europe. And can you just talk a bit about that area? Because I've just met so many, we've been to Prague and Belgrade and Poland. We've got to know via the co-working community. We got to know the Croatian Freelancer Association really well and did retreats there and stuff. So, I'm really into, and the Ukraine Co-working Association is, we already knew them, but we just got so close to them since the invasion in 2022, was it? I've lost track. Yeah. Oh, I always have to be really careful how I say that because I get excited and give the wrong dates, which is terrible. But what would you like to tell us about that part of the world?
I think one of the biggest things for me, so we do a lot of work in the Balkans. So Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Croatia, North Macedonia, places like that. And the biggest thing for me is that, a lot of the kind of communities and the people out there have known real hardship, right? Some of my team members are old enough to remember, sheltering in the basement as kids, for instance. And all of the rebuilding effort that went on after everything that went on back in the 90s out there. So they've known real hardship. And what that brings is this, like I said, this hunger, this work ethic, this desire to kind of progress and kind of really kind of, be not physically hungry, but just kind of, want something better. And that then translates into just this amazing energy and kind of work ethic. And, we see it in London. We see, in the hospitality industry, particularly, there's huge numbers of people from Eastern Europe here in the UK. And that translates into them when they stay in country and work remotely. So you just get this incredible sweet spot of, amazing talent. Their technical skills and their education system over there is absolutely amazing, coupled with this incredible work ethic, and then coupled with dramatically lower costs of living. So typically you're hiring at like 40 to 50% of kind of UK rates. And so it makes it really, really compelling for those that, either can't afford or can't find, the talent they need here in the UK.
Compared with other parts of the world, is there, I mean, I know you're like mad about that part of the world, but like, what do you think that has over other areas that people typically hire remote workers in?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is this, I refer to it as like cultural alignment. And what I mean really is that they're very, very direct talking. So people from Eastern Europe, generally, they're going to be very straight with you, almost blunt. And I have to kind of warn some of my newer clients kind of thing, like, hey, you're going to get used to this and you're going to love it. But it is very, very straight talking. It's not rude. Whereas there's other regions of the world that will never challenge you as a manager or as a boss, right? It's just, there are more subservient cultures where that is just not the done thing. And so if you give them a poor instruction that's maybe not entirely clear, which, as founders and business owners, we do pretty regularly because we just assume everyone understands what's in our head, then you're going to get, the analogy is you're going to get the square wheel. Whereas with people from Eastern Europe, just the cultural style and the alignment is very, very direct talking, great communication in that sense. That just means you have much better conversations, more proactivity, more challenge, that just gives you better results. So I think that's the biggest difference compared to, some of the kind of, wider known areas of the world that are also, known for remote hiring.
That is really accurate. I did a lot of podcasting and online event production with Željko from Serbia. And I think there's like 9 of him, and he runs an agency that makes explainer videos and then produces podcasts and online events at 100 miles an hour. And I definitely got more work done with him. And there was no talking about the weather in a really nice way. Like it was a joy to work with him because the level of efficiency and execution was amazing. And these days I work with Inga from Estonia, who is, just tells it like it. Not when you say tells it like it is, it sounds like it's being rude. It's like, did they pay? Yes or no? No. Well, what are you going to do about it then? Let's go. And it's, I don't know whether it's an English thing or just me, but it's like, it's so, well, maybe just get to the point is refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm trying not to ask, like, what do you think is going on in the next year? Because there's this never ending, exhausting future of work conversation. And AI is taking our jobs. AI is not taking our jobs. And like, have you got a few like predictions you'd like to lay out before we go?
I think it'll chill out a little bit, right? Or I hope it will, because like you said, it's just every second thing is scaremongering, fearmongering, all this kind of stuff. I think more and more businesses will go hybrid and will figure out efficient ways to do that. So where they're trying to force people back in the office, and you get this situation where, half of the team are in on one day and the other half on a different day, but they're still on Teams meetings and Zoom meetings, which makes no sense. I think that will kind of stabilize and just get a bit more sensible. I think more and more companies will leverage remote hiring because they need to, because they can't find talent locally. And one of the reasons for that is because more and more people, which I think is fantastic, are starting up new things themselves. Whether that's AI, whether that's all of the different tools that are available that make it so much easier to start a business, and micro entrepreneurs, things like that. I think that's fantastic. What that means here in the UK is there are less people in the jobs market that are looking for jobs. So I think you'll see a shift there. And I think, people will just, take what we've learned through the kind of pandemic about, the value of actually, focusing on life and kind of working to live, not the other way around, and just, find what works for them.
Talking of finding, Noel, where can we find you online?
Best place right now is probably LinkedIn. But if anyone ever wants to have any kind of chat or kind of chat about hiring, anything like that, just jobrack.eu/Noel. That's Noel. And they can kind of hit me up there. But otherwise, it's LinkedIn right now.
We'll put links in the show notes to all of that stuff. And are you still doing that little walk along the river video thing you do?
I do. My big thing is like hyper personal but very casual video. So if I want to get in touch with someone, if I'm chatting with friends or potential clients, I love Loom. And living in London, it's quite helpful because I can do it when I'm, got the Houses of Parliament in the background, or Big Ben or London Eye, things like that. So yeah, love a Loom video while I'm wandering along, just saying hello. So in the age of AI and things being, very impersonal, I'm all about the hyper personal video. That's
don't tell people that's the secret sauce. The super personal thing. Just before I think I had this conversation about once a week that, now we're all remote and in different countries, and like so many of our friends and work colleagues are spread around the world. The fact you can just make a video call from something like WhatsApp on your phone is just, what a luxury.
I agree. And I still have, I'm a pretty techie person. I've been in tech for a long time now. I still have that moment when I'm chatting to a friend in Brisbane, Australia, and it's near as damn it real time. And I'm having a moment going, this is really clever. And just there's bits like that. So I still appreciate that without any doubt. But I do have to, when I don't know, like I said, if I've got Big Ben in the background, I now have to call out and say, this is not fake. This is not AI. Look, this is actually 12 on Tuesday afternoon. And it's, I'm outside Big Ben, because otherwise everyone just assumes it's a fake background.
And do you remember calling cards where you have to scratch off the number?
Yeah.
And
and
you have to go to the right news agents that sold the 2-for-1 or did some deal like that, and kind of thing. And if you called from a mobile, it was like 4 times as much as calling from a landline. But there we go. Just giving away our age there. Okay. Say goodbye to everyone, Noel.
Hey, thanks everyone. Catch you soon. Cheers, Benny.
Cheers, folks. Thanks for listening, and go to techlondon.io and join probably the world's best startup Slack channel. Be careful out there. It is a jungle.
You've been listening to the Tech London Show. If you're interested in joining the community or even making an appearance on this show, make sure you join our Slack group over at techlondon.io. Till next time.